Today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Tax season is here, and that means that it's time to file your taxes. There's good news. If you're a W-2 employee, you can save half off your tax filing. All you have to do is call the Tax Defense Group before April 15, 2020, and mention that you saw this ad on UCast Studios. Millions of Americans will get money back after they file, and you can be one of them. Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. And another sponsor for today's episode is Writer Junkie. Are you looking to make more money in 2020? One of the best ways to do it is by having a new resume that can help you get that dream job. Writer Junkie offers affordable, well-written resumes for the low cost of $145. They'll even throw in a cover letter for no additional charge. All you have to do is mention that you saw this ad on UCast Studios, and they'll get right to work. Call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Hi, welcome to the Talk Spot. This is Marcus, and today I'm joined by Ross the Boss. Ross, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure, man.
So tell us a little bit about your career and some of the experiences that you've had in music.
Well, I've been at it for quite a bit. We put our first record out in 1975, a band called The Dictators from New York City. We considered like the first real true American punk rock band. We were 1 year before the Ramones. We're from New York City. We're from Bronx and they're from Queens. Dictators, and I've been in various other bands, put out 3 albums for The Dictators, took a hiatus, joined a French band called Shakin' Street, met this guy Joey DeMeo in England, opening for Black Sabbath. We decided to make a band called Manowar, put out 6 records in 6 years, 82 to 88. Then I was with various other bands, Manitoba's Wild Kingdom, Brain Surgeons, Heyday, The Pack, Death Dealer. Took some time out to have a baby. Now I'm started the Ross the Boss band solo career in 2008 with AFM. And my 4th record is coming out on March 6th. In between that, I was with a metal band called Death Dealer. So all in told, there's about 38 records.
You mentioned that the Dictators were one of the first, or they were the first band, and you guys were the first punk rock American band. I suppose for that, what led to your guys' sound? I mean, like what you were saying, by the mid 80s, there was already a lot of references at that point. So for a new punk rock band, or even if you see, a group like Green Day or something like that, maybe in the 90s, that they're able to look back and say, okay, we were able to grab, influences from these groups. Who were some of the, influences for the Dictators?
Yeah, that's a good question. We were definitely influenced by American culture, surfing, Beach Boys, Flamin' Groovies were a big influence on us. The MC5, of course, who were a huge influence on the Dictators. Early surf music, all that stuff influenced the band for sure.
So for the Dictators, so that obviously that was kind of more of a punk rock sound, and Manowar was more like metal type of sounding. I guess for yourself, how would you describe the difference in between what metal music, what that means, and what you think that conveys versus punk rock? Because in my mind, I've always viewed punk rock as kind of being a little bit like F the man, hey, we're going to do what we want, we're going to have the sound we want, and we don't want to be told what to do. I feel like metal, I don't know, I guess in my mind, the sound and the message of metal sometimes sounds, how would you describe the difference?
Metal, as far as the obvious sound, heaviness, riff-laden, doom-laden music that heavy metal is. I mean, punk rock was more, I think punk rock was just more, street level, street conscious band. The Dictators were. We were street kids from New York City. And metal, especially Manowar, was more pompous, more, overblown, more, more ego-driven, male ego-driven band, But all the while, though, my bands were all song-orientated. So no matter what the surroundings of the band were, or the genre was, songs counted more to us. Songs define the genre, you think, or sound, or the look of the genre. I think as for Manowar, obviously our image was a bit overblown. The fact that when we started in the 80s, what we were looking at, we saw Judas Priest, we saw Iron Maiden, the studs and leather look, and we didn't want to be that way. We didn't want to look like that because we wanted something different. So we figured Well, what's a little wilder than that? So we figured fur and, barbarianism and, Conan, and which was a big influence on the band, especially Conan the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger was a huge influence on us. And my first record came out in 1982. And so I would say that we look nothing like what the bands were. So looking back on it, I go, what would we think?
Yeah, do you ever have that sometimes where you look back at like previous like band photos or even images of yourself or even other bands at the time and you're like, how did we wear that stuff?
Yeah. But you know what? Alice Cooper could say the same thing, and Kiss can say the same thing, and the Tubes can say the same thing, and all the theatrical bands at the time. I'm lucky that I always wore my pants, and because the rest of them weren't, and it was like kind of like disturbing. It was disturbing when we were doing it to me. I'm not looking like that. I'm not looking like that, guys. So I always had my pants on. So thank God.
You didn't want to be up there looking like Tarzan or something?
Nah. It's like, and then it's like that look hasn't aged well. I can tell you that. So, but I always had my pants on. If you look at the pictures,
I mean, it is interesting, like the look of like bands, especially like from the '80s, where you look back and you're like, man, these bands are supposed to be, kind of more like masculine bands somewhat, but then they're up there and they've got like all this makeup on, and sometimes even in like semi drag, and it's very interesting because I feel like today you don't really see that a lot. Like I feel like you're going either one direction or the other. Like I feel like in the '80s, you have a band, like. Even like Twisted Sister, where it's like, they come out there, it's like, whoa, they in full makeup.
Full drag in mommy's clothing.
Yeah. And it's really fascinating.
It was fascinating, especially Twisted Sister. They were so big and so just, because the bass player played in the Dictators with us on our second record, Mark Mendoza, and he was a huge guy coming out in those outfits were just pretty amazing. I mean, you got to have balls of steel to come out in those outfits, man. I got to tell you. So did Manowar. So, wow. Looking back on it, it's like, yeah, I guess we did it. I guess, but it was the sign of the times. I mean, if you look back on all those MTV videos, I mean, everybody was crazy,
Well, I mean, kind of like you mentioned a little bit earlier too. I mean, metal's, it's at least at that time for sure. I mean, it was kind of known for being like what you kind of mentioned a little bit of like kind of over the top. Like you didn't just walk up there with your jeans and a t-shirt and a flannel or a sweater.
Now you can do that. Okay, no one cares about how you look now. No one cares what we look like now, but I try to keep my band looking very good. But no one cares. No one gives a shit. They just want the music.
Do you think like the alternative rock bands from like the 90s, do you think that's kind of what killed the look of a band? I mean, do you think they were the ones that pioneered it, or?
Yeah, well, thankfully, listen, the glam metal thing was getting so out of hand. It was so disturbing. It was so disgusting. It was so, I mean, these labels were signing anything with hairspray on it, and it was just, it got to the point where the old guys that got signed, like Motley Crue and Poison and Warrant and all those bands, they were disgusted by it. And what happened was, as soon as Nirvana came out, as soon as that record came out, like it was a matter of weeks, the whole hair thing just collapsed. Nirvana just destroyed hair metal, thankfully.
Wow. Yeah, because it seems like kind of like ever since, like you were kind of mentioning, I mean, obviously there's some musicians that definitely have like a look to them even now, but it kind of, it just seems like, especially for rock or alternative like rock, it's kind of just wear whatever you want. I mean,
there are bands now that go on stage in costumes. There are bands that go on stage like Ghost. There are bands that go on stage fully dressed differently, and and the bands that don't. So I mean, everything is flying now, it's good. I mean, if your band is wearing makeup and masks and like Slipknot, and it's all the same thing. It's all like Alice Cooper, Kiss. Nothing's new. Nothing changed. It's just that they changed their name, they changed their Gwar, all these bands. Nothing has really changed. I mean, whatever works.
So throughout your career, I mean, you've worked with several, like really like well-known musicians. I guess like who are some of the musicians that you've liked working with the most, or have there been any that you were like starstruck when you first met them?
Working I was working with Albert Bouchard from Blue Oyster Cult. I was in a band with him called the Brain Surgeons. We did an amazing record that we hope to remaster and put out again. It's called Denial of Death. I mean, working with Albert was a great honor, and now he's in the Original Dictators. Now the Original Dictators are getting back. Albert Bouchard's the drummer, and so working with him was great. Working with KK Downing this summer from Judas Priest, he played with us for on stage. Working with him was amazing. Working with Orson Welles when he was living for the first Manowar album, he did a narration on 2 of our songs.
Oh wow!
I mean, yeah,
that's incredible. So, wait, how old was he at that time?
1981. He was, I think it was, I don't know. He was kind of old. I don't know how much longer he lived after that because he was such a big guy. But working with him was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Someone so iconic.
So did he come into the studio, or did you guys have to, like, I guess, what was that? Yeah, I guess he probably just came into the studio and recorded, right? And you guys got to meet him?
The whole thing was we were signed to EMI, and he was coming into New York for the Night of 100 Stars or Night of 1,000 Stars at Radio City Music Hall. I don't think they have that anymore. And he agreed to do it. So we sent a limousine for him. We brought him to Media Sound on 57th Street, and he recorded for us. It was just unbelievable. I mean, and everyone was telling me he was stopping traffic when he got out of his limo, and these women in mink coats and these rich women, 57th Street back then, it was like these women were just fawning on him, and this guy was like Elvis, and this guy had some power, and he did so many great things. And so he came up, and he recorded for Manowar. It was just amazing. I mean, it was just one of those dates I'll never forget.
Do you think, like, when he did the voiceover, do you feel like his voice was still good, or did he kind of have cracks in his voice because he was a little older at that time?
No, he was still pretty good. He was powerful, man, and he was shaking the woofers in Media Sound. He was all the assistants, everybody in the whole place, in the whole building was there, just trying to just catch a glimpse of this, and it was amazing, really, really, truly amazing. He loved the lyrics too. It was to a song called Dark Avenger, and which I wrote, and another song called Defender, which Joey wrote, and he did the introduction for Manowar. Ladies and gentlemen from the United States of America, all hail Manowar. And it was just amazing.
That is really unique. That yeah. I wonder if he did that a lot. If he did a lot of voiceover for songs.
So I don't think he did that a lot. I know Vincent Price did a lot of things. James Earl Jones, all the candidates that we wanted. James Earl Jones did a lot. The guys with such deep, massive voices were amazing.
What? So you worked with those guys as well?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
I'm pointing out examples.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, because I know, I mean, when I first think of, obviously, like narration kind of in a song, like, obviously, the first one I think about is Vincent Price in Thriller. And
yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's really an interesting form. I mean, well, I feel like you never see that today, just straight up narration in a song, at least like in contemporary charts. Yeah, it's a really fascinating form of music. And I guess that kind of leads to kind of another question I want to ask a little bit about, and that's, what do you think are the state of both punk rock and metal today? Like, at least in regards to like newer musicians, like, do you feel like those two genres, how would you describe the state that each genre's in?
Well, the state of heavy metal, I would say, is exceptionally good. There are a lot of new bands coming up. It is harder for them now to gain any ground, because there's no MTV playing it. Sadly, they play that other music that I can't even take. But there is, for a great live band, there's always work. Heavy metal has never been, I mean, it's really strong. I mean, all the old guard is still playing. Saxon, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. My old band Manowar is still playing. Me, but with a new band. A lot of bands are still playing. As far as punk rock goes, I'm not as up to date with it. I know that there are plenty of bands playing. In every town, there's a punk rock scene that I go to. I'm also a DJ. I have a show on this thing called Gimme Radio. It's you can download the app Gimme Radio, and it's 24/7 metal. I do my own show. So I play punk and I play metal. There's plenty of bands, I can tell you. They're out there. They just need a break.
Yeah, I mean, do you kind of feel like with at least with the punk rock sound, I mean, do you think that maybe just a lot of that sound has just kind of been incorporated into, I guess, what's just called alternative rock? Like, do you just kind of feel like a lot of that's basically kind of hurt the genre a little bit because of that?
Yeah, I mean, after the Ramones, after the Clash, after the Sex Pistols, after the Dictators, after all of the Stranglers and Susie and the Banshees and Billy Idol, after all that stuff, it sort of got worn down into alternative and all sorts of, new wave, new romance. I mean, all sorts of stuff. I couldn't even keep up with it. But I mean, to me, that was the first wave of all that punk rock was the best.
Do you kind of feel like that term alternative rock? I mean, do you think that that's too broad? Like, do you think
what's it an alternative of? To what?
Yeah, exactly.
What is it alternating? What are we? Alternative to what? Mainstream music. Mainstream music is rap music now.
Yeah.
Pop music and which is it's just hideous. I mean, I mean, I listened to one song on the radio. Every song sounds alike. Every single song. I mean,
there's a movie that came out last year. It's called Under the Silver Lake. I'm not sure if you saw it. It wasn't a very big movie, but there's a scene in the film where this character, he goes to basically this really rich, I guess you call it like a fat cat type of music producer in Hollywood. And he goes there, and this guy is like on the piano. He's basically doing like a piano version of a lot of really popular songs. And he tells this guy yo, you think this music was produced by these musicians? Like, I'm the one actually creating it. And I kind of feel like when you just said it, it kind of reminded me of that scene, because it just seems like with a lot of contemporary music that you hear on the radio, this kind of ambiguous type of genre, like what you mentioned, it's like, it's not necessarily rap and it's not necessarily what used to be considered pop, but there are some instruments, like instrumentals. So it seems like it's just this big hodgepodge that like, it seems like 10 guys are just making everything. Or there's like 5 guys in a factory making all these songs on the radio.
It does seem like that because I mean, everything sounds the same to me. I mean, the backing, the backgrounds, the vocal effects. Because listen, I've made 38. I hear all this stuff, and it's just the drum sounds, the whole thing. It just sounds like they're just copy and pasting. I guess maybe not as severe as I'm thinking, but perhaps I should give it a better listen. But I don't have the time. And after one song, I'm like drained.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, yeah, it does seem like there are some, diamonds in the rough a little bit where you hear somebody and you're like, okay, that person sounds okay. But yeah, I mean, it's, I'm not a musician by any stretch at all. I mean, I like music, but I'm not a musician, and I can't play any instrument or anything. But from a person like you who is a musician, I mean, how would you describe like poppy music to, like, what genre is it actually? Like if you heard the music that's being produced today, like if somebody introduced you to this sound, I don't know, 1985, let's say. I mean, how would people of 1985 describe the genre today?
Oh, God, I don't know. I don't know. Pop is supposedly pop. It's supposedly, I don't know. I can't describe it, what I'm hearing now. It's just like half the song is pop, half the song is rap. There's always a rapper that comes in, this guy featuring, he's got to get his 2 cents in. That's as far as I don't listen to it. I can't listen to it. It just doesn't. I'm used to what I'm saying?
I think that makes sense. I mean, I think kind of like what you were mentioning earlier, the fact that the old guard is still there in a lot of regards for a lot of different genres of music. I mean, even if you look at, what people consider just rock. I mean, I think part of the reason why the old guard is still there and still touring and making so much money and still selling so many albums and, selling copies on, like iTunes and stuff is because I think that the new guys really aren't good enough to really supplant the old guys in a lot of ways. Like that's why you have a band like Rolling Stones that's so successful, and obviously, I mean, they're an iconic band that everyone knows, and they've sold whatever hundreds of millions of albums and whatever 1 billion different songs on iTunes they've sold. But I mean, I feel like like the bands that are supposed to be like the mainstream rock bands of the 2010s or whatever, the last 5 years, I feel like they haven't really done enough to supplant the older people. I mean, I even know for myself, I mean, I'm a huge fan of like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I mean, that band's been around for nearly 40 years. I think they formed in like 1984 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's surprising, but well, definitely. Well, Ross, yeah, thank you so much for taking some time to do this interview today. How can we follow everything you're doing? I mean, I know that you mentioned earlier that you're a DJ for the show, but what are some of the things that you're doing?
Well, that's thank you for asking. Well, we got the my new record, Born of Fire, is dropping March 6th, very soon. The single Denied by the Cross is on YouTube now, and it's doing very, very well. And so go check it out if you really want to. You really like heavy, heavy shit. Um, so many things are happening. Go to Ross the Boss, ross-the-dash.com, and see my website. You know, all the news. You can go to the fan pages. All the other band members have their fan pages. My bass player is also in a band called Symphony X, a very popular band, progressive band. So there's a lot happening. The Euro Tour is starting in April, and the festival dates are being announced. So that's it.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you again, Ross. I appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day. We want to thank today's sponsors again, the Tax Defense Group and Rider Junkie. You can contact the Tax Defense Group at 800-850-7973, and Rider Junkie's phone number again was 805-587-7966.